Hey, Heidi ho, you guys. Listen, I'm down in my workshop in the wee hours of the morning, and I'm working on restoring a old hand plane. It's a Bailey style number 3 plane, and I'm hoping over time to transition from electrical power tools around my homestead to hand tools. And I'm hoping I can bring you guys along for the ride, and as I learn how to restore these things and make them work properly, because when they do work properly, when you've done the right things, it's really easy to use this stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a gal. A wood chisel doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care what gender you are. And I'm hoping to convince you guys to learn a little bit along with me because, well, if you're interested in being self-sufficient on your homestead, if you're interested in being resilient to problems in the future, that's a problem. If you're not in the U.S., it might look a little different, but this is what a power outlet usually looks like in the U.S. You know, utility company, hydro, whatever your municipal power company is, etc. And I've got some really big power tools. Table saw, for example. This thing uses gobs of power, and in order to run this on solar power, it would be just cost way too much. Okay, well, anyhow, I was down here, and I was thinking I might real quick show you guys some tips and tricks on tape measures that I've learned. I know, it's exciting, like watching paint dry. But there are some interesting little tricks. You can tell both of these are pretty old. I use them a lot. This little one I keep in my pocket almost all the time when I'm home. And the first thing I want to show you is when you buy a tape measure, I've worn this out, this little thing here is going to be loose. And you might think that's bad manufacturing, but there's a reason for it. And if you look at tape measure, let me get the big one so I can show you a little closer. Right down in here, the end of this yellow metal to the 1 inch mark is actually a 1/16 of an inch less than an inch, believe it or not. And this thing moves back and forth for a reason. And let me show you. If you're going to measure 2 inches on a board, I've got just a piece of scrap here. When you hook that on there, okay, and you pull it, this yellow part's going to slide that way. And it accounts for the thickness of this little tang on here. Because if you're up against a corner and you're trying to measure, you push that in, it's going to slide in. And that's going to make up the difference. Now, this isn't very accurate, to tell you the truth. And I'll tell you in just a minute how to get around that and get really accurate. But there's also, right on here, a slot. And that slot has a reason too. Because do you ever try to measure a longboard and you get way out there and the thing keeps popping off and it's exasperating as heck? You can measure in like an inch or whatever you want to. Put a little nail in. This is a roofing nail I found laying over on the other bench. And hook it in that little slot. Can you see there? And that way, this won't come loose. Now, if you want to measure out 6 inches, okay, remember you got to subtract that inch over here. So make your mark at 5 inches. And that'll get you closer to the mark. But like I said, these things, they do wear some. So they're not incredibly accurate. So let me show you another trick. Let's say you want to measure 2 inches from the end of a board. And especially if you're using a pencil, okay? Pencils aren't all that accurate anyhow. Even if it's a super sharp pencil, the tip of the pencil can be a little rounded. And that might get you a little bit off. And most things around your homestead, it's not going to matter too much. But I'll show you a quick trip. You got to have a really sharp knife. And if you measure and make a little divot right at your 2-inch mark, okay, then you can put your knife in that little divot, get a square, bring it right up to the edge of a knife. It's got to be really sharp. And you can make your mark across with that knife. I'll darken this so you guys can see. Oh, helps if I stay in. I can't color in the lines. But that mark made by the knife is going to be really, really accurate. Okay, so let's move along to something else. Okay, you guys might not know this. When you're framing something for a shed or a building, okay, a lot of people have put a lot of effort into figuring this stuff out. The walls in a modern house are all framed with 2x4s or 2x6s on what they call 16-inch centers. And that means, well, this isn't a 2x. Here in the U.S., it's, a 2x4 is going to be 1.5 inches wide, and the center of it is going to be 3/4 of an inch on both sides. Okay, so you're talking 16 inches to the center of each board. And every measuring tape, every one I've ever bought, has markings in red at every 16 inches. Now, if you're going to do a floor or maybe some rafters, the common thing is, if you're using 2x6s or 2x8s, is to put the boards on 24-inch centers. But here's another little trick you might not know about. Okay, so we go at 48. And 48 is also a multiplication of 16. So, all right. Now, bring this over here. Let's say you're doing a floor. I went all out on graphics for you, just for this video. A piece of plywood that you might want to lay down and nail down onto this floor is going to be 8 feet long. Okay? And if you want the center of every board to be 24 inches, you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll call them 2x8s for a floor. Now, 3/4 inch plywood that you might nail down on here is actually rated for no more than 24 inches. And you get on this floor and start jumping around, and it's going to be a little bit wobbly if your rafters or your floor joists are 24 inches apart. Now, you could go 16 inches apart. But then you're going to have to buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 joists to get the job done. And they're going to be at 16, 32, 48. Let's see. Next one will be 64, 80, and then 96 inches or 8 feet. And those extra 2x8s are going to cost you some money. Well, none of us have money. Okay, so here's a little trick that you really may not know about. See that little black diamond right there? It's at about 19 and it's just over 3/16 inches. And that is exactly halfway between 24 and 16 inches. You can lay out your rafters right on those black diamonds to the center. And let's face it, you're framing out a floor. If you're a little bit off, it doesn't matter. But what you wind up with is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rafters that you have to buy. It's less than 24 inches. Wait, this way. Sorry. Which means when you jump up and down on the floor, it's not going to be so wobbly. And it's going to save you a pile of money versus doing them on 16 inches. Okay, one more. Last trick. Okay? Let's say you're doing something in the center of a, I don't know, you've got two boards, and I should have got another one to show you. Okay? But let's pretend there's another deal here. Another board. You can put this up against here, and the back end of your tape measure right up against something, you know, another rafter or 2x4 or something you're trying to measure. And every tape measure has on it, somewhere right down here in the bottom, this one says plus 3 inches. So we're at 6.5 inches here, plus 3, that's 9.5 inches. Close enough for homestead work. This little tape measure should say on here somewhere, and it does. That's 2.5 inches from here to here. So I hope you enjoyed those little tricks. Listen, please, please, please subscribe and hit that like button. If you really want to help out my channel, hit the like button and make a quick comment. Even if you tell me I'm a piece of crap, because that helps my channel out. And the way YouTube is these days, my channel can't advance without you doing that. It has nothing to do with views. It has to do with getting to the recommended part of your homepage. All right. I'll see you next time, and we'll get through this.